Why fight your opponent square on, where they can throw punches back at you with absolute ease, when you can cut an angle and fight somebody where they have to realign? So much easier from here, so much more effective. Today we're talking about 4 simple ways to cut angles and just take advantage of your opponent. Before we get to these 4 angles, these 4 ways to cut the angles, we're gonna talk very fast about this awesome strike ready deal that disappears Monday at midnight. Right now is the perfect opportunity to up your striking skills, both in terms of offense and defense. And why am I gonna be able to assist you in improving your striking skills? Well, just like Alex Pereira, I'm a former Glory champion. I have 2 belts with him, and I know what it takes to become a champion. My Strike Ready program is a complete fight system for striking sports. This is the best deal of the year. You will have access to my Strike Ready defense course, my Strike Ready assault course, and our weekly videos in Strike Ready Academy. And if you buy these programs individually, they are valued at $419.86. But for Black Friday and Cyber Monday, you can get all 3 for $99. That's a savings of over $320. This is a limited time offer and only happens once per year. Grab that Strike Ready package and start improving your striking skills at an exponential rate. There is coaching advice here that only a 6-time Pro World Champion and a 2-time Glory World Champion can deliver to you. So for years, and still now actually, because muscle memory, it's kind of ingrained in me to stand square in front of my opponent. I watch K1 Max. I saw guys like Masato, Bakao, everybody just standing right here, just teeing off on one another. And I sometimes forget things like, oh yeah, I can back up and make people miss. Oh yeah, I can cut angles and hit them from the side. And every once in a while, yes, I do it in sparring, and I will drill it on pads, but I don't execute as much as I want. And I do want everybody on the channel being able to improve and even do things which I don't normally do. Why not? So let's talk about 4 different ways to catch these angles. The very first one, which is just in my mind, I'm actually gonna turn this the other way, which is just so simple, is off 1 or 2 punches, catching a quick little boom. That's it, to the side. Now, if I'm just standing out here and I go like this, all this guy has to do is go, okay, where do you think you're going? So I need to come in within punching range to start. So the easiest way for me to do that is I step in, I throw jab cross, bump, bump. From here, instead of exiting, I cut off to the side. Now I'm still within punch range, but the ability for this guy to throw anything at me is so difficult, right? We can throw in here, but once somebody's off on this angle, it's kind of like, oh, what do I do? Yeah, I can kind of throw a hook, I can kind of slap out a back fist, but it doesn't work well. So catching that angle after your jab cross, just slightly, is a great way to now exploit. I find the body cross is the one that's open, because when you cut on somebody, you catch that angle, especially after the jab cross, and they see you take off, they prioritize protecting the head. That's what I've noticed. I step in, I cut my angle, and they're still standing here. But there's this big area to the side that's open, which they're not able to protect. So one of my go-to sort of preset combos that I try to do sometimes is I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna step in, throw my jab cross, cut my angle, and I know that that's probably open. If I need to adjust, then sure I will, but right to there. And the footwork on this is simple, right? I push in, I push sideways. That's it, I'm just making myself a nice 90-degree angle. 1, 2. Keep my hands high as I do it in case a left hook comes. But if you're more advanced and you want to do a slip under, you could also do that. You end up at the same spot. Most of the time I find that it's not necessary though. So that's the very first way to cut an angle on your opponent. The next way is something that even if you don't utilize yourself, this is great to understand. This is something that a good southpaw who can throw that rear leg, they're gonna utilize this against you. If you don't know what's happening, you might be like, why can't I not counter this guy? So what I end up doing is I take a little pre-step, like that. Now that already creates a slight angle for me. Now I blast in, boom, my round kick, but instead of coming back to where I started and ending up square in front, I'm actually gonna put my foot over here on the finish, which means now, yes, I have cut an angle. And now from here, as they go to adjust, I can throw another round kick if I want. I mean, I could keep that going almost indefinitely if this guy doesn't adjust, which they will. But I just take that little pre-step. If you don't want to take the pre-step, you don't have to, but then I find personally that cutting the angle puts me in a little bit more of a bladed stance, and I don't like being here. I like having a little bit of space between the feet. So that little pre-step to me is really important. Just open up the stance, land, I can step again. I can mix in some crosses or something like that as well. So I could step with the cross, boom, boom, come back, and you're always angling. Now this does work, as I said, better when you're fighting somebody who's out of the opposite stance, because you end up cutting to their weak side as opposed to their power side. So maybe on this one, if I was going to do this and I want to do a stance switch as a orthodox versus orthodox fighter, I might move my feet in my little shuffle, but go out slightly to the side. And then once I throw my left round kick, I can come down into my southpaw stance. And again, I have cut that angle. That's possible if you want to go the opposite direction. But in general, if you're ever against a southpaw, recognize that's what they're trying to accomplish against you. They're trying to take that step. They're trying to throw the round kick, and instead of coming back to where they started, they're just angling off. And again, now how do you counter that? Because they started here, but they finished there. So you block the round kick either side, and you go for your counter attack, but now they're over there. So it's a great way for you to utilize this and to bring it into your own game. One of my next favorite ways to cut angles on people is to very simply, we're just going to imagine this is the guy's guard. So imagine his guard is up like this. You see that, you go, oh, there's no good, great opening right now. So what do? I take the palm of my glove, almost like a really sloppy hook. I just place it there. Now I invert my hand as I take a step to the side. I find that very often this is an easy way to cut the angle while staying within punch range. Of course, at any point I can do this, but as I said before, he's just going to catch an angle as well. He's just going to go, look at you did all that work. Okay, but if I do this within contact, I have contact to him, now all of a sudden he is going to be that much slower at catching that angle in comparison to when I can throw. And in addition, with the pressure that I have against him, he's not going to be able to cut that angle very easy. He's going to have to back up and then reset. And during that time, I can throw my own shot. So if I see somebody with a high guard, maybe I was out here, I was snapping some jabs, I step in, I put pressure against them, I take a step backwards. I can either go left foot first and then right foot, or just right foot cutting, and this hand has to invert. I find that here I feel very weak. It's a very weak position to continue pushing in, but once I get to here and my elbow flares up, now I can continue putting that pressure in. So I'm in here, could be after my combo, I just stop and cut, or it could be early on. I prefer early on. I prefer just from here, I see their high guard, I make them think about it, just give them that, and then that push, that pressure, and then follow up. Love that way to cut an angle. The last way that I want to talk about taking angles, which is just easy, everybody can do it, is thinking about a V. So I'm not going, okay, I'm going to cut angles off to the side, I'm going to make a V. I can either go this direction, or I can go that direction. When I go that direction, it feels kind of awkward to do this, because now I'm not even facing towards my opponent. So doing a little switch of your feet and ending up in southpaw, 1 or 2, both of those with an attack is a great way to create that angle. So if I'm here, instead of walking straight in and throwing my cross, I cut off to the side. Yes, it changes my punch a little bit. I'm not coming right up the middle. Now I have to kind of invert there, or if I'm going to this side, invert there. So it's kind of this hybrid between a straight and a hook, kind of like that, just elbow flared really high, but making that V as you throw your initial shot is a great way to go, okay, I hit, and I've taken away so many of his attacks, and that's really what we have to remember when we cut an angle. Like I can always, if this guy's cut the angle on me, I can always kind of hit him, but there's not going to be much power, not the same power that I have when I'm square in front. So when you cut that little V to the side and you hit the person, you go, okay, yeah, he can kind of paw at me and slap at me, but it's gonna have no real substance. And as he goes to throw his shot with no substance, I can then come back with real attacks. That's what we have to remember when we cut these angles. I hope you guys enjoyed this little breakdown of 4 ways to cut angles. I do hope to make a whole course talking about footwork, angles, balance, all these small details which often get missed. But for now, hopefully this will suffice and you can add these into your training. See you guys back here soon for another video.